Well, this will make you laugh. The holier-than-thou BBC comedy show Have I Got News For You have had to delete an ill-judged joke about the Daily Telegraph journalist Alison Pearson, who was visited by police and faced possible arrest for a social media post that she sent a year ago. Now, those numpties at Essex Police, who suddenly realised that they ought to spend their resources tackling burglaries, car crime, muggings and sexual assault, have dropped the case altogether. But the BBC won't let it go. Here is the since-deleted Have I Got News For You gag. On social media, they posted, Essex Police drops Alison Pearson investigation on the grounds that, and I quote, "We were honestly just sick of talking to her." Sick of talking to her. Bloody women, eh? It reminds me of the BBC Doctor Who star David Tennant, who said that he hoped that the new Tory leader Kemi Badenoch would shut up and didn't exist. How ironic from the progressive left, who dominate BBC shows like Doctor Who and Have I Got News For You, who call everything hate speech except when it comes from their own mouths. Of course, Alison Pearson's great crime is not an historic social media post. That's not the story. It's her politics, which are unacceptable to this smug, sneering, state-funded TV woke-fest. Of course, it's not unusual for this leftist, taxpayer-funded echo chamber to belittle women who dare to have conservative views. Here is one of the show's stars, Ian Hislop, a few weeks ago yelling at a former Tory minister, Dame Andrea Jenkins, who jokingly suggested that the studio audience was politically biased.
You can't just say you've selected the audience. You've got no evidence for that, no proof. It's just this isn't GBNews.
Fantastic. Swearing at a woman and then the obligatory reference to GB News. After all, they're obsessed with us. Well, keep it coming and thank you for the advert. Has it come to this, that satirists, who are there to poke fun at the establishment and to challenge authoritarianism, should side with knuckle-headed cops abusing their power against a journalist? This, after all, is the same journalist in Alison Pearson who has used her platform to call out the madness of trans ideology, which has seen the mutilation of children, as well as biological men participating in female sport and entering their changing rooms. Pearson is the same journalist who has challenged the worst excesses of net zero, criticism of which would see you hung, drawn and quartered at the BBC. Alison Pearson is the same heroic journalist who called out the madness, in my view, of lockdowns and other damaging COVID measures, which have left the country in the total mess it is now currently in. But the BBC's flagship comedy show has offered only one set of views on all of those issues, the views of the North London liberal progressive elite, who find the possible arrest of a respected journalist absolutely hilarious. Now, this is the same show that this week dismissed the plight of hard-working farmers who apparently are all rich or something. Here is government representative, edgy satirist Ian Hislop explaining.
What is it that Labour are actually proposing, though?
Well, the focus of the protest is inheritance tax. Farmers didn't pay it at all, and now they're going to pay half of what everyone else pays.
Charming. Well, let me tell you, this week a female farmer told the Independent newspaper more farmers may commit suicide after the inheritance tax changes announced in the budget. But the worries and concerns of 14,000 ordinary farmers who made their feelings known in central London this week didn't seem to concern Mr Hislop, who went into bat for Rachel Reeves and the government. I'll be honest, Have I Got News For You has become Have I Got Views For You, as long as those views are left-wing. Your reaction to that, Have I Got News For You? Do you still watch it? Do you want to defend it? Because it's still got millions of viewers, so they must be doing something right. Let me know your thoughts. gbnews.com/your say. But first, tonight's top pundits. A brand new star on Mark Dolan tonight. Former Conservative MP who's going to get a very kind treatment tonight. I don't yell at anyone or use the B word. We've got former Tory MP Anna Firth. We also have the brilliant comedian Sajila Kershi and fearless political commentator, the one and the only Benedict Spence, and so many issues to get through. And I do want to know whether you are fans of the show at home, and if you do watch Have I Got News For You, whether you still think it's a chuckle fest. But, Benedict, let me start with you. First of all, the Beeb deleting this tweet, is that an admission of guilt?
I think it's an admission that it was just a really, really dreadful attempt at a joke. And frankly, I think that most people who watch used to watch Have I Got News For You wish that they'd do the same thing with the whole show. I know that you're saying it still has a huge audience. I don't know where they're getting this figure from. Presumably they must be Russian bots, because this is just... It's dreadful. I'm sorry. It used to be a really, really incisive show. It sort of peaked at that moment after Angus Dayton left and Boris Johnson had his sort of, series of shows of hosting it, and that was all very funny. And then it just sort of went downhill. The internet came along, Twitter came along, people started making jokes themselves in real time, and the show started picking up things that it saw on Facebook or Instagram and recycling those jokes, and now it's just tired. It really is. It's an echo chamber, and I think it's high time it was put out of its misery. It's just not very insightful. They've not changed up the lineup, and even when they have guests on the show who are just not particularly funny guests either. And I hate to say that that's partly because they have rather a lot of politicos on who, frankly, I think rather take themselves a little bit too seriously. One thing you could say about Boris Johnson is, although he took his personal ambitions very seriously, he was very good at convincing us that he wasn't taking it very seriously.
Do you think that Have I Got News For You has a left-wing political slant, Anna?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't even bother watching it. It's completely boring these days. I do agree Boris gave it a huge oomph, and, maybe he should come back to GB, come back to I've Got News For You, give them an oomph as well. But that tweet that they put out, I mean, how crass. How crass. It wasn't even funny, but actually it's a really serious issue. Essex Police got their priorities completely wrong. Pursuing Alison Pearson like that, I mean, I tweeted about it, completely the wrong priorities. I don't actually think it's a laughing matter. Thank goodness it's been completely dropped. Unfortunately, I don't think that looks good for them at all. How many other people
that don't have a platform,
who don't have Alison Pearson's platform, actually don't get things dropped and are living in fear and worry?
Some of them are in prison.
Exactly.
and paedophiles have made way for their accommodation.
Exactly.
And understand that Alison, who's a good friend of the show, has revealed in the last 24 hours that in this period she's had suicidal thoughts. So this is a human being at the heart of this story.
And a human being who, as I understand it, has had no apology, no explanation. Why was this upgraded from a non-crime hate incident, which the police shouldn't even be dealing with at all in my book? If it's not a crime, why are the police involved? Upgraded to inciting racial hatred, very serious matter, and then dropped altogether, and she hasn't even had an apology or an explanation. Yesterday she tweeted 14 questions that are reasonable questions that she would like answered, and I don't believe she's had any contact or communication at all.
Indeed, I shared that post, which is on my Twitter, at Mr. Mark Dolan, if you want to have a look at the many unanswered questions in relation to the treatment of Alison Pearson. There is a flip side to this, Sajila, which is that millions of people do watch Have I Got News For You. It's been on telly for decades, and it wouldn't still be on if it wasn't popular with its viewers.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I don't really watch it. And I used to watch it when it's always, mocked the news and
whoever's in power.
Yeah, and whoever's in power. And that included at one time, who headed it was Angus Deaton. Angus Deaton made the news that week, and he was... Do you remember this episode? He was completely destroyed, and he allowed it. And there was something lovely about that is actually no one is off limits, and that's the way it should be. There's a couple of things to unpick here. So Alison Pearson, should she have been arrested by the police? No, I don't think she should have been arrested by the police. But was she wrong in what she did?
And of course, she wasn't arrested, by the way.
Oh, okay. All right. So she was
asked to go in for a
the police were talking to her. Sorry, in questioning her. Yes. But was she right in what she did? I mean, she's a journalist, and the reason why they probably mocked her, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that tweet. I kind of disagree with my learned colleagues here. I think it was that's a satirical programme. That's what you write. Comedians say stuff all the time. What they made a mistake was to delete it. That was a stupid thing. I was wondering, what if you delete something? It's like you think you did something wrong, and that was where I think they made the mistake. But Alison Pearson, she tweeted something which wasn't even the picture was of like 3 Pakistani men who supported Imran Khan's party, and she called them Jew haters. Right?
Yeah.
And that was quite inflammatory.
OK, well, indeed. And, you know, I'm happy to come back to this when we do the papers, but just on the point of have I got news for you, is there a free speech argument here that they've tweeted a joke? Perhaps they shouldn't have had to delete the gag. Why have they deleted it?
Why did they? Well, I'm sorry, I have no inside knowledge on that one, but that's my question.
By their tweet?
Yeah, but I agree. I agree with you. Why did they delete it? Because that was a stupid thing to do, because it make you think...
Well, that's it, because I don't want them to be deleted, and I don't want the show to be cancelled.
I don't want it to be deleted.
All I want to do is call out the fact that it feels like a left-wing echo chamber. It wouldn't be a problem, except that we're paying for it. Do you not think that the Have I Got News For You is sort of politically biased?
I think it's got the 2 heads, right, who are politically left field, right? So that we know that. So of course that's going to have their opinions, and their opinions are really kind of overtaken over the years. Like I said, when you had like the different presenters and stuff, it gave it like fresh kind of vibe. And I think I agree with you. It's a little bit tired.
But actually, I mean, maybe this is a bit rich.
It's had its day. Yeah.
Is it a bit rich? For me, as a GB News presenter, this brand new channel, we're building our audience, but you know, minuscule compared to the millions that tune in to Have I Got News For You every Friday night, and the millions that watch and listen to BBC content every week. Is it a bit rich, especially with this accusation of Have I Got News For You being left-wing? Well, they might seem left-wing because we've had 14 years of a Conservative government. Do you not think that in time they will recalibrate and they will become the show that criticised the current Labour government?
They may well, but they may well be. But
and then they'll be called right-wing.
But I don't
They're
think...
damned if they do and damned if they don't.
I don't think it really matters left-wing, right-wing, whatever wing they are, they need to be funny. That's what the show is about.
Some people argue that they are.
Anna, would you go on it? Would you go on it?
I probably would, actually.
Do you think you'd get a fair hearing?
I just like to see what it's like.
What did you think of...
I've come here tonight, Mark, just to see what it's like.
You're going to get a rough ride, let me tell you. And what did you think of Dame Andrea Jenkins on the show a few weeks ago? Did you catch her performance on that?
I'm afraid I didn't watch that one either. But I'm sure she put up a robust performance.
Yeah, she did well. She did well. Briefly.
What I'd say very briefly is that the opening 150 days of this Labour government have actually been one of the funniest 150 days in living memory. They've been that catastrophic. A good programme, right-wing or left-wing, would be able to make fantastic comedy out of that, and that's not happening on Have I Got News For You. It is happening on Twitter, though, so it can be done.
Yeah,
okay.
And as a lefty, I agree with you.
Folks, there you go. Let me tell you that many people would take the view that actually Have I Got News For You is the most successful entertainment format in the history of British TV, and that's why it's still on.